I found my 8-year-old daughter trembling, her beautiful red hair butchered and stained with cheap dye. My heart stopped. But then my sister, holding a phone that was live streaming the whole thing, laughed and said, "Relax. I'm just teaching her a $75,000 lesson. My name is Darlene, and I'm a 2-year-old single mom. My world revolves around my 8-year-old daughter, Wendy. And until last 4th of July, I thought my biggest battle was navigating co-parenting and PTA meetings. I was so wrong. The firecrackers celebrating our nation's independence were drowned out by the sound of my sister Lorraine's manic laughter from the upstairs bathroom of our family's lake house. A cold dread, heavy and metallic, settled in my gut. I pushed the door open, and the sight that greeted me shattered my world. My sweet Wendy was trembling on a stool, her beautiful, fiery red hair, the exact shade our late grandmother was famous for, was gone. In its place were patchy, butchered clumps, stained with the acrid, chemical stench of cheap box dye. Chunks of her magnificent hair lay scattered across the white tile like pools of blood. And my sister, Lorraine, stood over her, phone in hand, live streaming the entire thing. She looked at me, a cruel smirk playing on her lips. "Just a little holiday joke, Darlene," she sneered. Someone had to teach her that a $75,000 necklace is too much pressure for a little girl's head. In that moment, watching my daughter's spirit being sheared away for the price of a piece of jewelry, I felt something feral awaken inside me. If you've ever felt that primal need to protect your child from a threat you never saw coming, especially from within your own family, let me know in the comments. It wasn't just about hair anymore. It was a declaration of war over my daughter's soul, and I knew right then that I would burn down our entire family legacy to protect her. But to understand the cold calculation behind that moment, you have to see how the day began. We had driven 3 hours north from Grand Rapids, the air growing cleaner and smelling of pine as we neared Traverse City. The family lake house, a sprawling cedar-sided home my parents had built in the 90s, was supposed to be our sanctuary. When we arrived, the scene was pure Americana flags waving from the porch, the scent of Walter's famous BBQ ribs on the grill, and cousins splashing in the clear, cool water of Lake Michigan. My Aunt Miriam, my late grandmother's sister and the family's quiet conscience, pulled me aside as soon as I'd set down our bags. Her face, usually so warm, was etched with worry. "Darlene, be careful today," she whispered, glancing towards the patio where my sister was laughing a little too loudly. I overheard Lorraine and Roger arguing in their car when they pulled up. It was ugly. He was talking about credit card debt, being nearly $30,000 in the hole. She screamed at him that if he was any kind of man, he'd find a way for her to get her hands on Grandma's necklace. That it was their only way out. My blood ran cold for a second, but I pushed the feeling down. We were all under financial pressure. I'd seen Lorraine's jealousy my whole life, but to actively plot against a child? It seemed impossible. A line even she wouldn't cross. "She's all talk, Miriam," I said, forcing a smile. "She's just stressed." I wanted so badly to believe in the illusion of a happy family holiday that I ignored the warning bells. It was a mistake that would haunt me forever. The afternoon wore on with a tense, humid stillness that mirrored the mood under the surface. While the men gathered around the grill debating the Detroit Lions' chances this season, the women sat on the screened-in porch. Lorraine was holding court, of course, talking loudly about a recent cruise she and Roger had taken, a story that now seemed like a desperate performance in light of what Miriam had told me. About an hour before dinner, she clapped her hands together with a sickeningly cheerful grin. "Okay, everyone, I have a fun idea," she announced. "The girls have been begging for makeovers, so I brought some supplies. We're going to have a little salon day upstairs." Her eyes landed on Wendy, who was proudly showing off the intricate braid I'd spent an hour on that morning. "And I'll even give our little Wendy a special, fire-red color refresh. What do you say, sweetie?" Wendy's eyes lit up. Before I could object, Lorraine pulled out her phone. "I'll even live stream it on the private family Facebook group so Grandma Josephine in Florida can see the fun," she declared to the room. "No one has to miss out." The knot in my stomach tightened into a cold, hard stone. Live stream it? It felt performative, strange. But what could I say? in front of my entire family, to accuse my own sister of having sinister intentions would have started a war. They'd call me dramatic, overprotective, so I just smiled weakly and said, "Don't make too big of a mess up there." I watched my daughter, trusting and innocent, take her aunt's hand and skip up the stairs. That image, her happy, unsuspecting face, is burned into my memory. She was walking into an ambush, and I, her mother, had just stood by and let it happen. As I knelt on that cold tile floor, cradling my sobbing daughter, the rest of the family started to crowd the hallway, drawn by the commotion. My father, Walter, stood frozen in the doorway, his face pale with shock. But it was my mother, Esther, who pushed her way to the front, her expression not one of horror, but of pure annoyance. "For heaven's sake, what is all this screaming about? You're ruining the party." I looked up at her, my voice shaking with a rage I'd never known. Look what your daughter did to my child." I turned Wendy towards her, revealing the full extent of the damage. For a fleeting second, I saw a flicker of shock in my mother's eyes, but it was immediately replaced by a steely resolve. She clicked her tongue. "Well, it's certainly a drastic look, but it's just hair. It grows back." "Just hair?" I echoed, my voice dangerously low. "She held her down, Mom. She violated her and filmed it for entertainment." My mother sighed, a long, exasperated sound, and then she delivered the line that truly broke me. "Honestly, Darlene, maybe this is for the best," she said, folding her arms. All this fuss about her hair, about Grandma's will. It was putting far too much pressure on the child. It's not healthy to be seen as the special one. Lorraine was just leveling the playing field. The world went silent. It wasn't just a defense of Lorraine, it was a justification. My mother had seen Wendy's inheritance not as a gift, but as an imbalance that needed correcting. In her twisted view, this brutal act was a necessary lesson. I realized then that I wasn't just fighting my sister, I was fighting my mother's deeply rooted favoritism and resentment. I was utterly and completely alone. My mother's words hung in the air, thick and suffocating. That betrayal was the final push I needed. The years of trying to keep the peace, of swallowing my pride, of making excuses for their behavior, it all burned away, leaving behind a cold, sharp clarity. Lorraine, now fully backed by our mother, was gloating. "See?" she said, turning her phone screen towards our cousins. "The live stream already has, like, 50 reactions in the family group. Everyone thinks it's hilarious." That was it. I gently wrapped a bathroom towel around Wendy's shaking shoulders and handed her to the only person I trusted, Aunt Miriam, who looked on in horror. Then I stood up and walked towards my sister. The hallway went quiet. Everyone expected a fight, a screaming match, maybe a slap. Lorraine just smirked, holding the phone up defiantly. I didn't say a word. I simply plucked the phone from her hand. Before she could react, I turned and, with all the force I could muster, smashed it against the wooden doorframe. The crack of the screen and plastic shattering echoed in the dead silence. Lorraine gasped. "You're crazy. It's already saved to the cloud." "Good," I said, my voice eerily calm. "That's what my lawyer will call Exhibit A. This isn't a family drama anymore, Lorraine. This is a crime scene. You assaulted a child. You filmed it. And then you broadcasted it. I'm filing a police report tonight for assault on a minor. I'm getting a restraining order that will make it illegal for you to be within 500 yards of my daughter. Enjoy your viral moment." I hope it was worth it. 2 days later, the quiet of our small suburban home felt like a fortress against the world. Wendy was sleeping, finally exhausted from the trauma. I was sitting at the kitchen table, a cold cup of coffee in hand, staring at the number for a family law attorney when the doorbell rang. It was my father, Walter, standing on my porch looking older and more broken than I'd ever seen him. My first instinct was to slam the door. I assumed he was here on my mother's orders, to plead with me to be reasonable, to protect the family name. "If you're here to ask me to drop the police report, you can leave," I said, my voice flat. "No," he said quietly, his eyes avoiding mine. "I'm here because I've been a coward my entire life. He stepped inside, clutching a faded, cream-colored envelope. "Your grandmother gave this to me a week before she passed away," he explained, his voice thick with emotion. "She told me to keep it safe, and to only open it if I felt Esther's ambition or Lorraine's envy ever truly threatened to break the family's heart. I was too scared of your mother to ever mention it. Until now." He handed the letter to me. With trembling hands, I read my grandmother's familiar, elegant script. "My dearest Walter," it began, "I leave the necklace to little Wendy because her spirit, not just her hair, reminds me of my own hope for this family. I worry about Esther's need for control and Lorraine's bitterness. If you are reading this, it means my fears have come true. Please, be the strong man I know you can be, and protect what is right." The tears I'd been holding back finally fell. It was vindication. A voice from the past, confirming I wasn't crazy, that the toxicity was real. And it was my father's first, faltering step towards redemption. Let me take you back to that moment I walked away from the bathroom. Holding my grandmother's letter now makes that memory even clearer. It wasn't a retreat, it was an advance in a different direction. After I'd smashed the phone, the hallway was a tableau of chaos. Lorraine was wailing not for what she'd done, but for her broken phone. My mother was coddling her, shooting daggers at me. Some cousins looked ashamed, staring at their feet, while others whispered judgmentally. I ignored them all. My only focus was the small, trembling hand in mine. As I led Wendy towards the stairs, my mother's voice rang out, a final, desperate attempt at control. "If you walk out that door, Darlene, don't bother coming back. Family is everything." I stopped at the bottom of the stairs and looked back at the wreckage of what we once called family. "No, Mom," I said, my voice steady. "Protecting your child is everything." Aunt Miriam was waiting by the front door, holding Wendy's backpack and my car keys. She didn't say a word, but her eyes, filled with a mixture of sorrow and pride, said everything. She walked us to my car, a silent guardian in the sudden twilight. As I buckled a still-shaking Wendy into her car seat, I wasn't thinking about the years of memories I was leaving behind. I was thinking about the livestream saved to the cloud. I was thinking of the dozens of relatives who stood by and did nothing, all of them witnesses. As I pulled out of the long gravel driveway and saw the lake house shrink in my rearview mirror, I didn't feel loss. I felt the cold, clean weight of purpose. The war had just begun. The drive home from the lake house was 3 hours of near-total silence, broken only by Wendy's quiet sniffles. The next morning, I acted. My first call wasn't to another family member, but to a lawyer specializing in domestic cases. My second was to the Kent County Sheriff's Department to file a formal report. The officer who took my statement was professional, but I could tell, initially skeptical. He'd seen his share of family squabbles that spilled over. But his demeanor shifted the moment I explained the financial motive and the live stream. "She broadcasted it?" he asked, his pen stopping midair. "And saved it to the cloud?" I nodded. Suddenly, this wasn't just a bad haircut. It was premeditated assault with digital evidence. Weeks later, we were in court for the restraining order hearing. Lorraine and my mother arrived dressed for church, their faces masks of sober concern. Their lawyer painted me as an unstable, vindictive sister, blowing a simple family prank out of proportion. For a moment, watching the judge's impassive face, a sliver of fear crept in. What if he believed them? But then my lawyer played the video. The courtroom was silent as everyone watched the 15-minute clip. They saw my daughter pleading, saw her cousins holding her down, and heard Lorraine's laughter as she hacked away at her hair. They heard her taunt Wendy about the necklace. The evidence was absolute. The judge's face was grim. He granted the protective order without hesitation. For the next 2 years, Lorraine was legally barred from coming within 500 yards of me or Wendy. No calls, no texts, no social media posts. It wasn't a victory that made me want to cheer. It was a heavy, somber confirmation that I had done the right thing. I had built a wall of law around my child, and it was the only thing that could keep the monsters out. The restraining order felt like a shield, but I had no idea another kind of justice was brewing online. The livestream video, which I thought was contained within our toxic family circle, had a leak. My younger cousin, horrified by what he'd witnessed and disgusted by the family's attempts to sweep it under the rug, anonymously sent the video file to a popular northern Michigan community blog. The blog posted it with the headline, "Holiday Gathering Turns Ugly, Woman Livestreams Assault on Niece Over Apparent Inheritance Dispute." It exploded. Within 48 hours, the video had tens of thousands of views. People in the tight-knit communities around Traverse City started recognizing faces. Someone in the comments section gave my sister a nickname that stuck, House Lorraine. The name was everywhere. It became a local cautionary tale. Lorraine, who worked as a prominent marketing director for a well-respected furniture company in Grand Rapids, was suddenly infamous. Her employer's social media pages were flooded with angry comments and one-star reviews. People called for boycotts. By the end of the week, the company had issued a public statement announcing that she was no longer employed with them, effective immediately. A friend sent me the article, and my heart sank even as a grim sense of justice settled in. I never wanted this public humiliation for her, but she was the one who hit go live. She craved an audience for her cruelty. And in the end, she got a much bigger one than she ever bargained for. It's a terrifying thing when a private pain becomes public property, isn't it? It makes you wonder what justice really looks like in the digital age. While Lorraine's life was imploding publicly, a quieter, more profound change was happening with my father. Handing me that letter wasn't the end of his story, it was the beginning. A week after his visit, he called me. I expected him to be distraught over the news about Lorraine's job, but his voice was calm, resolute. "I just wanted you to know I had my first session with a therapist today," he said, the words sounding foreign and brave coming from him. He called me a classic enabler. Said I spent my life trying to keep the peace, but all I really did was let the bullies win. This was a bigger shock than the live stream. My father, a man who considered talking about feelings a sign of weakness, was actively seeking help. He didn't stop there. He informed me that he'd met with the estate lawyer. He used my grandmother's letter not as a legal weapon, but as a moral directive. He had started the process of placing the necklace into a secure trust for Wendy, which she would receive on her 18th birthday. He was systematically dismantling the toxic power structure my mother had built. He started showing up, not with grand apologies, but with quiet actions. One Saturday, he came over and spent the entire afternoon helping Wendy build a ridiculously complex birdhouse for a school project. As they worked, he looked at me and said, "I see your grandmother in her, you know. Not just the hair. The strength. I'm so sorry it took me this long to see it, and even longer to defend it." It was in these small, consistent moments that I saw the man he was always meant to be finally emerging. He was no longer just my father, he was becoming our ally. But all the legal victories and family shifts in the world meant nothing if Wendy wasn't okay. And for the first few weeks, she wasn't. The trauma had left deep, invisible wounds. She wouldn't look in mirrors. She wore a beanie or a scarf constantly, even to sleep, hiding the uneven, patchy stubble. The thought of returning to school in the fall filled her with a terror that broke my heart. One evening, as I was tucking her in, she whispered, "Mommy, maybe Aunt Lorraine was right. Maybe my hair was the only special thing about me, and now it's gone." I fought back tears and held her tight. "Oh, my sweet girl," I said, looking directly into her sad eyes. "Your hair was never the special part. It was just the frame. You are the masterpiece. Your fiery spirit, your kind heart, your incredible imagination, that's the magic. That's what Grandma saw in you." A few days later, I had an idea. I told her we had a choice. We could hide what happened, or we could take back the power. I pulled up pictures on my laptop of powerful, beautiful women with short, chic pixie cuts. I told her the story of how women in the 1,920 seconds cut their hair short as a sign of liberation and strength. I saw a spark in her eyes. The next day, we went to a high-end salon. I told the stylist, a wonderful woman named Maria, what had happened. She treated Wendy not like a victim, but like a warrior, designing her new armor. When Maria finished and turned the chair to the mirror, Wendy stared at her reflection. Her beautiful eyes, once hidden by her long bangs, were now the star of the show. She tentatively reached up and touched the short, stylish cut. A small smile spread across her face. "It's cool," she whispered. "It feels strong." In that moment, she wasn't hiding anymore. She was redefining herself. Looking back, the setting for this implosion couldn't have been more tragically perfect. The 4th of July at a beautiful lake house in Michigan. It's the stuff of American dreams, the kind of scene you see in commercials for pickup trucks and life insurance. It's all about family, freedom, and tradition. But our tradition was toxic. For years, we'd gathered under that roof, pretending. We'd smile for the group photos, post them online with captions like "blessed," and then spend the rest of the day navigating the landmines of my mother's favoritism and my sister's envy. The lake house itself, that sprawling monument to my parents' success, wasn't a home, it was a stage. We were all just playing our parts. The holiday wasn't a celebration of freedom, it was a mandate to conform to the image of the perfect, happy family. And that pressure, the unspoken rule that you must never, ever disrupt the facade, is what allowed the darkness to grow. The obsession with legacy, with the inheritance, with who deserved what, it was a sickness. We were so focused on the material things we'd pass down, like the house and the necklace, that we forgot to pass down the things that actually matter. Kindness, respect, empathy. The irony is sickening. On the day we celebrated our nation's independence, my daughter lost her own bodily autonomy, and I finally had to declare my own independence from the tyranny of keeping up appearances. That perfect American dream house wasn't a legacy of love. It was a pressure cooker, and that weekend, it finally exploded. The final piece of the fallout came about a month after the incident. My father called me one evening, his voice heavy. "I wanted you to hear it from me before you heard it from someone else," he said. Roger filed for divorce from Lorraine. I was stunned into silence. Roger, who had always seemed to quietly endure my sister's domineering personality, had finally reached his limit. "He came to see me," my father continued. "He said the public shame from the video was bad, but that wasn't the final straw. He said he kept rewatching it, watching his wife terrorize a child, his own niece, and he realized he was married to a stranger. He told me, 'Walter, I can handle debt. I can handle a bad temper. I cannot be married to someone who is cruel to a child for money. I look at her and I don't see the woman I married. He's moved out and is staying with his brother.'" I hung up the phone and felt a wave of, not happiness, but a deep, aching pity. Lorraine had been so consumed with destroying what she thought made Wendy special, her hair, her inheritance, that she had systematically dismantled her own life. She'd lost her job, her reputation, and now her husband. Her whole world had been built on a fragile foundation of appearances and envy, and in one afternoon of malice, she had set fire to it all. She was left with nothing but the consequences of her own bitterness, a lonely queen in a kingdom of ashes. And as much as she had hurt us, I couldn't find it in my heart to celebrate her ruin. While the family I was born into was fracturing, a new one was revealing itself. The first day of 3rd grade loomed like a storm cloud. Wendy, despite her newfound confidence in her pixie cut, was terrified. "What if they laugh at me, Mom? What if they call me names?" she'd asked, her hand trembling as she picked out a hat to wear. I did my best to reassure her, but my heart ached with her anxiety. That morning, just as we were about to leave, the doorbell rang. It was her best friend, Zoe, and her mom, Susan. Zoe was wearing a hat identical to Wendy's. "We wanted to walk with you guys," Susan said with a warm smile. Then, Zoe looked at Wendy, grinned, and pulled off her hat. My jaw dropped. Zoe, who had beautiful brown curls down to her shoulders, was now sporting a chic, fiery red pixie cut, almost identical to Wendy's. It was clearly a temporary dye, but the statement was permanent. "Now we match," Zoe said proudly. "So if anyone says anything, they have to say it to both of us." Wendy's eyes filled with tears, the first happy tears I'd seen her cry in weeks. She took off her own hat and, for the first time, looked ready to face the world. I looked at Susan, speechless with gratitude. She just shrugged. That's what friends do. In that one simple act of profound kindness, a little girl and her mother showed us what family is supposed to look like. Have you ever had a friend show up for you in a way that your family didn't? Share that story below. Let's celebrate those people. I had lost a sister, but Wendy had just shown me what true sisterhood really meant. Months passed. The vibrant Michigan autumn gave way to the quiet blanket of the first snow. Wendy was thriving in school, her pixie cut becoming her signature look. My father was a consistent, gentle presence in our lives. We were building a new normal, a quieter but far more authentic life. Then, a few days before Christmas, I received a text from a number I almost deleted. It was my mother. The message was short, and it was not an apology, not really. It read, "Walter tells me he has been spending time with Wendy. He says she is happy. The house is decorated for Christmas, but it is too quiet. I have made an appointment to speak with a counselor after the new year. I am not making any promises. I just thought you should know." I read it 3 times. There was no "I'm sorry," no acknowledgement of the pain she'd caused, and yet, for the first time, there was a crack in her wall of pride. It was the smallest of steps, but it was a step. In that moment, I realized what forgiveness really meant. It wasn't about absolving them or saying what they did was okay. It was about me. It was about letting go of the hot, burning rage that I'd been carrying, because it was only poisoning my own heart. I could forgive my mother and my sister for my own peace of mind. But forgiveness and reconciliation are 2 very different things. They had broken our trust, and only their consistent, long-term actions like the ones my father was attempting could ever hope to rebuild it. I could let go of the hate without letting them back in. And that realization felt like the final, truest form of freedom. So, that's our story. It's a story that started with an act of profound cruelty but ended in a place of unexpected strength. If I've learned anything from this journey, it's that the word family is a verb. It's an action. It's not something you are born into by default. It's something you build through love, loyalty, and fierce protection. Sometimes, the most loving thing you can do for yourself and your children is to redefine what that word means, to prune the branches that are toxic so the healthy ones can grow. Justice, I've found, is a strange and complex thing. While the legal system gave us a shield, true consequences often come from the universe balancing its own books. My sister craved an audience for her malice, and the world gave her one, reflecting her own ugliness back at her in a way no judge or jury could. It's a stark reminder that what you put out into the world has a powerful way of finding its way back to you. And finally, I learned about forgiveness. It's not a grand gesture you give to someone who hurt you. It's a quiet gift you give to yourself. It's the key that unlocks the cage of your own resentment so you can fly free. You can forgive someone and still choose to love them from a great, safe distance. Building boundaries is not an act of war, it's an act of peace. Thank you for listening to our journey. If this story resonated with you, please like and share it with someone who might need a reminder that it's okay to protect your peace. Subscribe for more stories about navigating life's toughest challenges. And remember, you are the architect of your own sanctuary.